Oak class, welcome to Wednesday's maths lesson where we're going to continue on with our work on fractions. So last lesson we had a look at unit fractions. Can you remember what unit fractions are? Have a look at this triangle. What fraction does the shaded part of the triangle represent? It represents 1/2. Can you remember what the top number and the bottom numbers are called in the fraction? The top number is our numerator, and that represents how many parts are taken or shaded. So you can see in this triangle, 1/2 or 1 out of 2 parts are shaded. So our numerator is 1. And in unit fractions, the numerator is always 1. A unit fraction means when one part has been taken or shaded. Can you remember what the denominator represents? The denominator represents how many equal parts there are in total. Remember, each part in a fraction always has to be equal. So our denominator in this fraction is 2, because there are 2 parts in the triangle. The triangle has been divided into 2 parts. One part is shaded, so that means that this fraction represents 1/2. What about this square here? What fraction does the shaded part of the square represent? It represents 1/4. How many parts has our square been divided into? It's been divided into 4 parts, so our denominator is 4 because the denominator represents how many equal parts there are in total. That means altogether. Altogether we've got 4 parts. And remember, our numerator represents how many equal parts are taken out or shaded. And in this fraction, 1 part out of the 4 is shaded. How do we say this fraction? 1/4. Well done. Let's have a look at this question. How many parts do we have in this pentagon in total? This one's a little bit trickier. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So our denominator in this fraction is going to be 5 because the pentagon has been divided into 5 equal parts. What would our numerator be? How many parts have been taken from the fraction or shaded? We've got 1 shaded part, it's the red part, and we would say this fraction as 1/5. Well done. So this shape. Now what happens if there is more than 1 part shaded? What fraction do you think this circle is showing? The numerator represents how many equal parts are taken or shaded, and the denominator represents how many equal parts there are in total. How many parts has our circle been divided into? It's been divided into 4 equal parts, so we know our denominator is going to be 4. Now how many parts have been shaded or taken from the fraction? We've got 3 parts shaded here in green. 1, 2, 3. So our numerator, our top number, is going to be 3. Okay? So if fractions where the numerator is always 1 are called unit fractions, what do you think this kind of fraction might be called? Fractions where the numerator is more than 1 are called non-unit fractions. Did you guess it? Have a house point if you did. Now let's have a look at this question. We've got 3 children here, Lily, Noah and Ola. And question 1a is asking us what fraction of the children are boys and which fraction of the children are girls. So let's build this using real resources we can find around our house. So let's find one thing to represent boys and one thing to represent girls. I have chosen a red pen to represent boys and black pens to represent the girls. Now we have got Lily, Noah and Ola. Lily and Ola are girls, so I've got 2 black pens to represent the girls. And Noah is a boy, so I've got 1 red pen to represent Noah. So how would we work out what fraction of children are boys? Well, we've got 1 boy here, and then we've got a girl and a girl. To find our denominator, we need to work out how many parts there are in total. We have got 3 parts in total, 1, 2, 3, so our denominator would be 3. Now, how many parts out of our 3 are boys? We've got 1 red pen here, so 1 out of 3 are boys, and we would say this fraction as 1/3. So 1/3 are boys. What fraction are girls? See if you can work it out. So we have the same denominator again, 3, because we've still got 3 equal parts here. But how many of them are girls? How many out of our 3 are girls? We've got 1 girl here and 1 girl here. How do you think we would say this fraction? We would say it as 2/3. So 1/3 are boys and 2/3 are girls. And in total, we have got 3/3, which is the same as 1 whole. So we managed to work out that 1/3 of the children are boys and 2/3 of the children are girls. So now in question 1b, we have been asked to draw Ola's kite. Ola's kite is 3/4 red. So that means that Ola's kite has been divided into 4 equal parts, and 3 of them are red. Have a go and see if you can draw the kite. So here I've got a drawing of a kite. The kite has been divided into 4 equal parts. So 4 is our denominator. We know that Ola's kite is 3/4 red, which means that 3 out of 4 of these equal parts have to be coloured red. There's 1/4 red. There's 2/4 red. And there's 3/4 red. Did you draw something like this? If you did, give yourself a house point. Well done. Now let's have a go at the think together. Complete the sentences. This kite is made up of 3 equal parts. So what would our denominator be? 2 parts are yellow, so what would the numerator be? And then you've got to write the fraction. Which fraction of the kite is yellow? So pause the video now and have a go, and then we're going to go through it in a second. So, if our kite is made up of 3 equal parts, what would our denominator be? Our denominator would be 3. 2 of our parts are yellow, so our numerator would be 2. So 2 parts out of our total 3 are yellow, and we would say this fraction as 2/3. Have a house point if you got that right. Now question 2 is a little bit trickier. We've got 5 different kinds of kites here, and we have to pick out, first of all, which kites show 3/4 shaded, which kites have a unit fraction shaded, and which kites have non-unit fractions shaded. Remember that a unit fraction is where 1 part has been shaded, or the numerator is always 1. And non-unit fractions are where the numerator or the total or the parts that have been shaded, is more than 1. So pause the video again and have a go, and we'll go through it in a second. Let's have a look at 2a, which kites show 3/4 shaded. So we know that in the fraction 3/4, our denominator is 4, so our kite must have had to have been split into 4 equal parts. So our possible answers, which kites have been split into 4 equal parts? A has, C has, D has, and E has. But now if we look at our numerator, we know that 3 of those 4 parts had to have been shaded. In which kites have 3 parts been shaded? If we look at A, it's got 3 red parts shaded. So we know that A has 3/4 shaded. Can you spot the other one? So in kite D, 3 orange parts have been shaded. So we know that that represents 3/4. So our answers are A and D. Well done if you got that right. Which kites have a unit fraction shaded? So which kites only have 1 part shaded? So in kite C, we've got 1 green part shaded. So we know that C represents a unit fraction. Which unit fraction is that? So we've got 4 equal parts, and 1 of them is shaded. So C represents 1/4. Can you spot another similar one? E also has 1 part shaded, but this one is shaded red. Does it represent the same unit fraction? Yes, it's divided into 4 equal parts, and 1 of them is shaded, so it represents 1/4 as well. So the kites that have a unit fraction shaded are C and E. Which kites have non-unit fraction shaded? Our only one left is kite B. What's different from all the other kites about kite B? Kite B has been divided into 3 equal parts, or thirds. And how many of the thirds have been shaded? We've got 2 blue parts shaded. Which fraction is this? 2/3. And we know that's a non-unit fraction because our numerator, our number of parts that have been shaded, is more than 1. So the kites that have non-unit fraction shaded is just kite B, all on its own. Have 2 house points if you got any of those correct. So in this next part of the lesson, we're going to be looking at finding 3/4. So here we've got a picture of a pizza. Question 1a is asking us what fraction of the pizza has mushrooms, and 1b is asking us what fraction of the pizza does not have any mushrooms. Let's build and then draw this question to help us. So I've got my own fraction pizza here, and my pizza has been divided into 4 equal parts, or quarters. 3 of my pieces of pizza have got mushrooms on them. So our denominator is going to be how many pieces have we got all together? We've got 4 pieces all together, 1, 2, 3, 4. And how many pieces have got mushrooms? 1, 2, 3. So 3/4 of my pizza has got mushrooms on it. So what fraction of the pizza has not got mushrooms on it? So we found out that 3/4 of our pizza has got mushrooms on it. And the fraction of the pizza that does not have any mushrooms is 1/4. Because if we look at a circle, like our pizza, that has been divided into 4 parts, 3 of our 4, I'm going to put an orange blob in 3, have got mushrooms on, which leaves us with 1/4 because we've got 4 quarters in total. 4 quarters is our whole. So our number of pizza slices has to add up to 4. So 3/4 have got mushrooms on and 1/4 does not have mushrooms on. 3 plus 1 is the same as 4. Now let's have a look at this question. Gino has 8 slices of pizza. He shares them equally between 4 people. How many pieces of pizza does each person get? If we look at this sentence here, he shares them equally. What operation do we know involves sharing equally between groups or between people? So sharing equally is the same as dividing. First, before we work this out, let's build. So here I've got 8 pieces of pizza, and I've got 4 hungry customers that Gino is going to share his 8 pieces of pizza equally between. So let's start sharing. Now, how many pieces of pizza does each person have? Each person has got 2 pieces of pizza. How could we write that as a number sentence? So Gino had 8 pieces of pizza. Do that a bit bigger. Gino had 8 pieces of pizza and he divided them between 4 people. And each person ended up with 2 pieces of pizza. So 8 divided by 4 is the same as 2. We could also write that as 1/4 of 8, because there were 4 people and 8 pieces of pizza, and each person got 2. So 1/4 of 8 is equal to 2. So our question was, how many pieces of pizza does he give to one person? So we knew that one person out of our 4 got 2 pieces of pizza each. 1/4 of 8 is equal to 2. So he gives 2 pieces of pizza to one person. Question B is asking us, how many pieces of pizza does he give to 3 people? Pause the video and have a think about how you might work this out. So if he gives 2 pieces of pizza to one person, how might we work out how many pieces of pizza he gives to 3 people? Let's go back to our representation and see if we can work. So one person gets 2 pieces of pizza. So how many pieces of pizza in total would Gino have given to 3 people? That means that we need to look at 3 of our groups. So 1/4 of 8 is 2, and we are working out 3/4 of 8. So we know 1/4 is 2, that's one group here, and we need to work out what 3 groups is equal to. So let's use our times tables to help us. We're counting in 2s. One group is 2, 2 times 2 is 4, 3 times 2 is 6. So 3/4 of 8 is the same as 6. So that question with Gino's pizza was an example of finding a fraction of an amount. So our amount was 8 because Gino had 8 slices of pizza, and we were finding a fraction of it. In this case, we were finding 1/4 and 3/4. So we have a rule for when we find fractions of amounts that I've written in a STEM sentence here. When we find fractions of amounts, we divide by the denominator and then multiply by the numerator. Pause the video and say that again to yourself so that you remember it. So you can visually represent this using something called a bar model. So we can draw a bar like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oops. You have to excuse my drawing, it's quite hard using a mouse. So in the top bar we've got our whole, which is 8. And we are dividing it into 4 equal parts. So 8, so 1/4 of 8 is the same as 8 divided by 4, or 8 shared between 4. You can see here we've got 8 in our bar and there are 4 little parts that we're sharing 8 between. So in each part we would have 2. When Gino shared his pizza between 4 people, one person got 2 pieces of pizza. So each of these little parts here are worth 2 pieces of pizza. Now we've worked out what 1/4 is. We need to work out what 3/4 would be as well. So we've divided by the denominator because we did 8 divided by 4. Now we need to multiply by the numerator. Remember, the numerator is the top number here. So let's go back to our bar model here. We know that 1/4 is 2. And we need to find out 3/4. So it's just 3 of our pieces, or 3 of our groups. 1, 2, 3. So it's 2 plus 2 plus 2. What's another way of saying 2 plus 2 plus 2? We could also say 2 multiplied by 3. 2 times 3. And 2 times 3 is equal to 6. So 3/4 of 8 is equal to 6. So let's go back to our original question. How many pieces of pizza does he give to 3 people? He gives 6 pieces of pizza to 3 people. 3/4 of 8 is 6. Now let's look at question 2. Well done for making it all the way through that maths lesson. I'm sure you've done some really good work. Now have a go at the bookwork on page 140, Unit 10, Lesson 10. I'm going to put the answers for the questions on the screen now.